Some kind of a team.
Yeah, some kind of team and the official WhatsApp group where we will be updated about the happenings.
Yeah, it will be a soon. Will be communicating regarding that. Right now, there is a no such a group. Yeah, for the FYBSC. Yeah. So once all the students will be registered or get admitted, the final copy when we'll receive from the college, then it will be happening. So it will take time. So just wait. Uh,
And sir, do you know anything about the eligibility form?
that's the same question yesterday. Some people asked. Sorry for that. Okay, we haven't know about these things. Okay, but just wait for the notification of the website. Okay, regularly visit the website only.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So can I start my lecture now? Okay. So is it that PowerPoint is visible to you, right? So what is read?
Yes,
What is
sir.
read? Yeah. So it is written like the moment of inertia, lecture two, unit one. Course is PHY 1101, paper one, mechanics and properties of matter. Today's date is mentioned Tuesday, 28th September 2021, time slot 3 to 3:50 p.m. And my name and designation will mention. Okay. So this is your first screen, right? So I can proceed further. So everybody knows about this inertia because I know you already completed 12th and you people have a lot of interest in physics and you know the inertia examples, the things you can come across day to day life also. But the bookish definition or you say the physics point of view, how we can learn these kinds of things, so scientific formulation, definitions, solving problems for the particular body and everything. Okay, we need to study its scientific way. So the moment of inertia. Before that, I have defined these things. Okay, you all of you know aware about the Newton's laws. Okay, the laws of inertia. The first law of inertia you come across, and you know its definition. So that's the you always talk about the particular body. When it is in race, it is to be in race. When it is in position of uh, continuous motion, it is to be remain there in a continuous motion unless and until you have any external unbalanced force acts on it. Okay, this is the way we called as a first law of motion of body. When we are talking about the body, it is in the translational motion or you say the uniform motion. So it's a motion of straight line that we generally use the word translatory, and the property associated with such a body we called it as inertia. So okay, this is the way we define the inertia. So how we can come across like some things physically, okay, and that's you can give enormous examples about the inertia. Okay, but I'll go forward because we already people you studied all those things in your earlier courses also, and here in this chapter we are come across the word. It's generally a moment of inertia. Okay, so like in a translatory motion, which is the parameter which affects this motion. So that's the what the mass of body which plays a significant role in defining the inertia of the body. So so whatever be on the screen, it is just for your writing part. Okay, to understand the part, you just write down, put up your own notes. So it's a practice. People, you should write on the notebook those points what I'm discussing in the class, and then you can take a reference books from which I have taken. I will give you all those references at the last of the lecture. We can discuss also some of the questions you have come across while putting come across means while on the discussion of this topic. So here we are going to discuss the first chapter, first unit, or you say first topic, what we call as the inertia. Okay, so generally when we are putting this inertia, when we are talking that particular body is in some motion. Okay, so we are talking about translatory motion, which is uniform motion, a straight line motion. Okay, but what happens when we are going to change that particular state of the body? Okay, by doing something. So how you can do that? You can do by applying certain kind of a force. Okay, which is a, you apply certain unbalanced force, then its body get deaccelerate or something is happens. Okay, so whatever, depending upon the nature of force you apply, and that's the what the body is experience some kind of, um, the body is reacts to that, and so generally it is related to what kind of a body you have, what mass does that body possesses, what does the inertia that body have. Okay, opposes to the desired change that we want to do that particular body. Okay, so this is the what the generally we are talking about the major of this particular, internal property of the body, or the inertial, that's what we call as a property of that body in terms of mass of that body. It's a major in terms of the mass of the body, just like a body when it is in simple translatory motion or the uniform motion, right? I'm not talking about the body. Later on, we'll come to the moment of inertia. First, we are discussing about the particular bodies having possesses that state of the property, and that we are defining over here the body's inertia in terms of its mass. So generally, the mass of the body that's taken to be a measure of its inertia when the body is in the translatory motion. So as it that opposes the acceleration, I say positive or negative accelerated or deaccelerated. Okay, that is to be produced by the applied force. Okay, and that desired that actually does the change. That force is change the motion of the body, or body is itself in the rest. Okay, wants to be in motion. So that is the property which is internally associated, and that we define in terms of the mass of the body. Generally, we define like that way. So you can see on the screen now, okay, the simplest definition of the inertia that we define, okay, the tendency. Okay, so somebody asks what is that tendency? The body has to be in race, want to be in race. The body possesses certain state of motion, okay, and if you want to suddenly want to stop that body, so it comes to the rest, but the the force acts on the body if it is unbalanced. Okay, the it comes to that. I mean to say that opposition to that particular force we done. Okay, so that's the tendency we are defining over here is what the inertia. Okay, so hope you know about it. But I will come now to the next point, and that's what generally when we are defining the body's inertia, where we have a bodies in simple linear motion, translatory motion that we called as, okay, or the uniform motion, okay, in that the body has. But what happens to the inertia of the body when it is in rotational motion? Okay, and that's come across the word and physical meaning. We called it as a moment of inertia over here is defined. So here the just like you people have learned about all those things, so I'm not going into that details how those equation comes, formulation comes, okay. But we are applying all those property of this particular moment of inertia to understand certain bodies and certain equations that we are going to derive. Okay, apply those a particular body that is given in your syllabus of first unit. So we will discuss that. Okay, one by one. So here I'm going to define this particular rotational motion when you say that the body is free to rotate about an axis, okay, and there is opposition to that desired change when the body is in state or it is remain when we apply the force, okay, the body is in motion, but already the body is in rotation, okay, and when we deaccelerate the body, so the property associated with that body is behaves. I mean to say that property is we called in terms of rotational motion is called as a moment of inertia. Now it is here this definition what we are defining this moment of inertia. There are the two things comes into a mind. Okay, so body is like is not a simple. Okay, it's rotating about an axis about the axis of rotation. Okay, so the body which is in moving around a certain axis, and it has a what we say the length arm or the certain distance through which the body is rotating around that common axis of rotation. So that is a very important terminology over here when we are defining the bodies in the rotational motion. Okay, so it is the important thing that you people might be understand. So the force that we generally come across this when the body is in the simple linear motion, simple force is applied. But whenever the body is in the rotational motion, okay, the body is applied by a certain couple or a torque. So it is just you want to define in a way. If you want to define, so it's a moment of force. Okay, it's just not just simply a force. It's a force acting on the what the length or you say the distance from which the axis is passing. Okay, so that the distance where the body is located from the axis of rotation, that's a very important parameter over here that plays a significant role in defining the moment of inertia. So it's not the simply the we can say that the inertia is just like in a mass to be replaced. The measure of the mass, more will be the mass, more will be the inertia that body possesses. But here, when we are talking about the moment of inertia, okay, here we are talking about not only the masses over there to be distributed around what we say common axis of rotation, but it is also equally important is that the distance that matters, okay, where these all masses to be a place from the axis of rotation. So here the things come to your mind will be clear that, okay, so it is the inertia that the body has because of the rotational motion. Okay, so the important thing over here, the quantity here, significant role is a moment of force. That's a force act on the distance or the length, okay, from where the body, from which position, okay, that the masses are rotating around a common what we say axis of rotation. So look at, these are the all words you already learned, okay, in your previous courses also, but it's a kind of, you need to understand the significance, how we can fundamentally define the moment of inertia. So okay, so and whenever we are talking about the moment of inertia, we are talking about the couple or a torque, okay, which is acting on the what certain length arm. And when we are talking about the body which is in the rotational motion, okay, so body is rotating around some axis of rotation, about the axis of rotation. So please write those definition when I'm talking what is on screen, okay, please write on your own words, these are all definitions, okay, that I'm discussing now. So it is the body, moment of inertia of the body that we are defining in case of rotational motion. Just like you can say that it is just like a mass which is a place. Same analog case is a case of in translatory motion. So just be in your mind, this analogy will be a clear that what we consider in a simple linear motions are the what the masses, effectiveness of the masses. That the terminology comes here when we are talking about the masses which are rotating around the axis of rotation. Those are in the rotational motion. So right. So when we are writing here the this particular definition, okay, you can equivalently say that this mass moment of inertia is a coefficient of rotational inertia. The body is in the rotational motion and possesses that inherent property associated with that, and that's the rotational inertia. So moment of inertia here when we are defining, okay, you can just take this particular example, okay, that's um in gymnastics, okay, the skaters, how they moves around, and how the things, if I mean to say, the things will be providing, you mean to say the rotational inertia, its magnitude is greater in sense or smaller in magnitude. It's typically depending upon not only the same kind of a masses which is rotating, but the axis and the distances from the common axis, these all masses are rotating. So just you can see that in the figure, okay, if the rotational inertia will be a more when will be the then the skater is providing the larger radius, just stretching their hands and legs, so you will find the more highly rotational inertia. But if you having you just skating around the common axis at low length, okay, it possesses the low rotational inertia. So just like you have a wheel which is rotating around, and the masses you just keep near to us, and you rotating, you will have the low rotational inertia and the angular velocity that will be a larger in that case. While when you just stretch your hand and all the masses you are coming, I mean to say they are distributing larger distances from the axis of rotation, you will have the larger, or you say the higher rotational inertia. So these are the way we can defining, I mean to say experiencing this particular property of a body when the body is in the rotational motion. So hope you understand now these two things, how we defining the particular. And I know you people have come across earlier in your own courses of 12th. I know this is the first chapter, but to learn this first chapter already you have a background of all those Newton's laws you learned, and all the kinetics been involved, and the law of motion, okay, the first law of motion, where we discuss about the inertia, and then you come across all those linear acceleration, and then you have angular momentum when the body is in the means rotational motion, angular acceleration. So I'm not going to into that definitions because already you people have learned those. Okay. So here I'm just following the what the part of the syllabus will be here. Of course, we will take some problems. Okay, understand the concept, and we will do some. We will solve some problem based on it. Okay. So later. So when you are talking about the what the mean by this particular radius of gyration, here this particular word we are defining theoretically. Okay, so when we are talking about the inertia of the body, it is talking, it is totally depend upon the mass. But when we are talking about the rotational inertia of the body or the moment of inertia of the body, it is not simply depend upon the mass of that body, but also effectively depending upon the effective distance from the of all those particles from the axis of rotation that we measure. So generally, when we want to measure all those distribution of those masses, you have to define in terms of certain mass. So here, capital M being taken as a mass of that body, and that capital K has been taken over here as a effective distance of those all particles or those masses which we taken into consideration from the axis of rotation. So when we are defining this quantity, moment of inertia, I say how we can define. So here the K is a effective distance. What effective distance? All those particles which are rotating from the common axis of rotation. So it is like that all the masses are distributed and they are rotating around a common axis. So we call this effective distance of those particles from the body is as a radius of gyration. So here we are defining the radius of gyration as the effective distance of the particle from its axis of rotation about the axis. So how can we define? So when we are defining the moment of inertia, the mass and the square of those distances from the particle of rotation is coming to be a significant. But when here I'm talking about the small k over here, okay, it's small k is we called as a radius of gyration, and that we have to define to take a square root. So I'm just taking this definition first. So first of all, definition of the moment of inertia is that just you have to take the product of the masses and square of the distribution of those effective distances, okay, of those particles which are rotating around the common axis of rotation. So effective distance, that k becomes a square, and you multiply by the mass, you will get a moment of inertia. Okay, fine. So here I want to define the k. So what I'll do, I just want to take a square root of that. So it is not a simple square root. We take a root mean square distance, okay, of these articles from its the axis. So equal to the square root of their mean square distance. Remember, it is not the square of their mean distance. It should be the square root of their mean square distance. So how we can take the effective distance? Take a square root of that, okay, we called as a mean square distance, and then we take a square root. A square root of their main square distance. Remember, this is the definition of the radius of gyration of the body, and this about an axis of rotation that we need to define as the distance from the axis. So here, when we are talking about the particular body or its just like you consider there is a three-dimensional always be a body, but when we are defining or certain things projected, such a body is a two-dimensionally, okay, and we called all those masses are effectively effectively distance distributed, and all those masses, suppose I'll taking one axis which is a passing through the body, okay, so I'll say that all the masses are supposed to be concentrated at the center of that body, whatever be the arbitrary body you have, okay, and the all the masses that is to be effectively concentrated at some point, and that we called as the center of mass of that body, okay, and here we take a certain position from which that rotational axis passes through, okay, and all those distribution of masses supposed to be concentrated at that point, my point, so that the moment, so sorry, so please mute yourself, okay. So there is some mics which are not going up. So don't do such a kind of things. You are in the first year of BSc, okay, and you have to be graduating soon. So just follow the instructions, okay. So otherwise, I won't be. I got disturbed about this. So please take it into mind these things. So what I'm talking here. So here I'm talking about the radius of gyration, and that we need to define in terms of effective distance. But when we are defining that effective distance, we need to measure. How we measure? We just take the square root of the mean square distance. That we called as the radius of gyration. Okay, and that we defined here as a k. So when we are defining the moment of inertia, you want to just do the product of those masses and just multiply. I mean to say product of the masses and the square of the mean square distance, okay, I mean to say that effective distance, that is the radius of gyration you need to do. So that distance that the distance we need to take into consideration for defining the moment of inertia of the body. So when we are talking about this particular things, like in any particular body which is having been arbitrary body, and which is then we need to define its moment of inertia, we need to consider the rotation of such a body about the axis of rotation, and this we need to consider those effective distance from the axis of rotation. So how we calculate that effective distances? The effective distance we need to calculate by the value of the radius of gyration about that axis. So how we can do that? So first of all, we need to consider that, assume that all the masses of the body taken to be concentrated, they are distributed and they are the various different distances from the axis of rotation. But when we are defining the effective distance, we need to consider that all those masses suppose and that's the center of mass of that body, okay. So the total mass of the body, when we are saying, okay, that is effectively be at the center, and from which that axis of rotation is passing that, okay. So where is the, so what how can we say that this particular mass of the body when which is in rotational motion, okay. So value of this particular radius of gyration is totally depending upon the position and the direction of the axis of rotation. Remember, the position and the direction of the axis of rotation is a very important thing. So I can write it over here also with the screen, you can understand. So pain is over here, so I'm talking about this particular concept, the radius of gyration. Okay, so this is typically depend the position and also the direction of the axis of rotation, from which direction it passes through that particular position. Also, the direction of the axis of rotation is very important, whether it's a perpendicular or a tangent to that body. Okay, that's very important. So the distribution of the masses of that body is also plays a role. Okay, and that's I say two significant parameter are playing a role over here when we are defining the radius of gyration. So how the position of that axis, the direction of that particular axis to that particular body, I say about that, and how those distribution of those masses of the body about that axis. Okay, so this is the very two parameters will need to be play a significant role when we are talking about the radius of gyration of the body about a given axis of rotation. Okay, so significantly, why I'm not so just considering that all you have understood the in general about the body, and this simple the body we are learning today is the rotating body. Okay, it's a body which is in rotational motion. Okay, so it possesses all those property of the body when it is in rotational motion. So the first law which is come across, and that's we called as a yeah, before that, two laws are there. Okay, perpendicular theorem and the parallel axis theorem. Okay, you people have learned that, but just again repetition for those who have just a revision. Okay, those peoples have taken all those spring from the Mathur book, all those symbols and the diagram. You can I can send you the PDF of this after the lectures. Don't worry, but just write down the main points. Okay, about these expressions what I'm going to derive today. So this we need to put some formulation. Okay, and that's what here we need to write uh, the moment of inertia in terms of the masses, the distribution of those masses of certain bodies. So here we consider a body of mass m, which is given over here, and this particular body which is at the position from distance. So here the y prime you can see that's the imagine this is any axis. Okay, and the body is composed of large number of particle of masses m1, m2, m3, and so on. And this particular body which is at the distance r1, r2, r3, and so on. Okay, from this particular axis. So how can we write the moment of inertia? So as we define already, okay, if you want to write down the moment of inertia for the particle m1 only, so how can you write that? You just consider the distance of that body that has a certain particle which is at the mass m1, okay, of that particular body, which is held at a distance r1 from that particular axis we consider over here through which that body is rotating. So we consider that distance as r1 distance over here, and suppose there is another mass m2 which is at the distance r2. Like that we have a m3 particle there, and which is held at a distance r3 from this distance. So that distances we can easily write down. So when we are writing the formula for the moment of inertia, you just do what? The product of that m1 with the square of that distance. So m1 r1 square. Like that for the moment of inertia writing for the m2 mass. So you write m2 r2 square, so on. So you can write down the resultant moment of inertia, but it's just the summation of all those effective, individual individual masses having those moment of inertia. So just summation rule over here, addition rule over here, we are to write down the resultant moment of inertia of the whole body, which is having certain capital M mass. Okay, that is capital M is nothing but M1, M2, M3, and so on. Okay, but when you are writing this in terms of moment of inertia, so we write the definition I for that. Capital I over here representing the moment of inertia of the whole body. Okay, so when we are writing this particular I, okay, the moment of inertia about this particular axis which we consider over here is a y prime, that should be the sum of m1 r1 square, m2 r2 square, m3 r3 square, and so on. Okay, and that's a plus and so on. So mathematically, how can we write those formulations? So I, that is a resultant value, you should write m1 r1 square plus m2 r2 square plus m3 r3 square, and so on. Okay, so I'm not writing all those things. So we just replace with the summation symbol, summation of all those m1, m2, m3. Okay, but that I should be as what? Summation of all those effective distances. So we can say that this effective distance K, which we are writing for this particular R over here, we consider that all those distances which are the different positions from the axis of rotation. But when we are writing for the K, we come across the name effective distance. Effective distance means what? All those distribution of the masses are supposed to be a what we having the what? Effective distance. So all the masses are supposed to be concentrated at some point, and that point is a rotating around the common axis of rotation. Okay, and that we called as the effective distance, K. So that's the R to be replaced over here with the K, and you can write down the K as the radius of gyration of the body about the what? YY prime. That's the axis of rotation. So here the expression that we understand, and as you know that this equation when we are writing the summation of mr square as a mk square, here we are writing by considering that all those effective distances over there, just simpling r with the k only, and all those masses with the addition of all those masses, then only we can write. Otherwise you have to simply write down the r as a summation of the mr square only. Getting this point? So hope you know about it. It just you need to know about the expression that we come across. So now I'm going past some questions we can discuss in the last. I think this is the revision to your earlier course that you learned at your 12th. Okay, probably in the first volume of your SC Verma book, or the probably Mathur book also you may use. I don't know, but yeah, Resnick Halliday and everything you people come across that. That's a simple. Sort of the same kind of repetitions to you people. So these are the theorems again need to be used when we want to solve some problems on such a particular bodies, okay, where we are defining such a bodies their rotation across some axis of rotation and so on. So here the planar laminar body where we are talking about something, so laminar body is something which is in a plane lamina, okay, just passing about an axis, and this particular lamina is I mean to say the perpendicular to the plane of the lamina, this axis which is passing through this particular plane, okay, which is a perpendicular to this plane of the lamina. So here when we are defining this such a body, and we want to define the first theorem, or write down the statement for the first theorem of inertia, or the moment of inertia, when we are talking the first theorem of the moment of inertia for considering the certain planar lamina, and that a plane lamina about an axis which is passing to the perpendicular to the plane of lamina, and these two axes which are passing is actually intersecting each other. So how we define the perpendicular of the plane of lamina, this particular moment of inertia is equal to sum of SUM. Sum means addition of the moments of inertia of the lamina about two axes. Okay, and these two axes are right angles to each other, and they should be in the plane, their own plane, and they should be intersecting each other at the point where that perpendicular axis is passing through it. Getting my point? So this is a very important point when we are defining the perpendicular axis, or the statement for the perpendicular axis theorem. So there are the two kinds of axes which are right angles to each other, and we need to individually find their moment of inertia, and their sum, okay, their addition should be the resultant moment of inertia of this whole lamina about an axis, but that axis should be a perpendicular to the plane of lamina. So remember, this is the statement where we are talking about, we called as a perpendicular axis theorem also, okay, the name. And here we are applying for a certain body where the we called as a laminar body, since it's a plane planar lamina, okay, simple, and it's just the inertia, that the moment of inertia of this plane lamina about the perpendicular axis we are defining in terms of the perpendicular axis. So these are the axes which are passing to this particular lamina, and they are to be a perpendicular to each other, okay, but they must passes and intersect at the point where this perpendicular axis pass through it, okay. So this is the how can we generalize this theorem in terms of, like, if you want to have to find the resultant, the resultant moment of inertia of the body due to the two perpendicular axes. So axes are like the positions where that, I mean to say, the position axis means the perpendicular to that particular position of that body. Okay, so when these axes are perpendicular, here we are to define the resultant moment of inertia. So how can you write? So here, suppose you consider there is a ix here we define. So ix is the what we called as a moment of inertia of the plane lamina about the perpendicular axis. So which perpendicular axis? That is OX is a perpendicular axis to this plane lamina. Okay. And there is a IY, that is the moment of inertia associated with the plane of lamina, but about the perpendicular axis, that is what? The OY, that is the this particular axis along which you have. This is the axis OA, OY, and you have another axis that is OX over there. Okay, and these are the IX and IY are the moment of inertia of this plane lamina about the perpendicular axis. OX and OY we are defined. So now what is your axis? Here we have to consider some kind of a position. So what is that OX? O is the what where these two perpendicular axes are intersects, that we called as origin also, that define as where the two axes are originate at some point O, and the moment of inertia that we have to define that particular intersecting point, that is the point of intersection which is O, and perpendicular to the plane of lamina. Okay, these are two axes are the perpendicular. So resultant moment of inertia, if you want to write down with the help of this theorem, okay, perpendicular axis theorem, you can easily write as a Ix plus Iy. Okay, now we need to prove that. How to do? Consider here certain particle. Now we just need to consider some particle over here at some position point M, okay, of this particular lamina, which is the held at a certain distance. So from the OY, which is held at a distance X, and which is held at a distance Y from this axis OX, okay, respectively. So just be careful here. The X is a position from the OY axis, and Y is the distance, you say, from the OX axis. Okay. So here the resultant distance, if you want to write down the distance R, that is from O. So this is the this is, you say, the resultant distance R or the effective distance R of this point O, which we consider, okay, at a point O, at a point P, that is what the R distance. So how can write down by the definition of the moment of inertia? So by the definition of moment of inertia, you can easily write down the I as a summation of mr square. Okay, simply sum of all those distributed masses, summation of them, and just product, I mean, say multiply with the square of the that distance. So R is a distance of this particular mass, which is at the distance R. So summation of all those mr square, that gives you the resultant I. What is a general independent Ix and I values that we need to write it over here? So Ix and I value, you can write it over here as a what the distances they have, okay, and simply by the definition of the moment of inertia, you can individually write down those values of Ix and Iy. So Ix is a summation of my square. Why it is a my square? Because y is the distance from that particle from the OX axis, and Ix is the moment of inertia of this particular axis. Okay, that I'm talking about the OX axis. Iy is a summation of mx square, where the x is the distance of this OY from the this particular mass we consider over that in lamina. So look at when we are doing the addition, we need to do simple Ix plus Iy, which is summation of my square in summation of mx square we do. So summation of which is common to all, and in bracket y square plus x square. But this Pythagoras theorem gives you the simply the r square is nothing but your y square plus x square, okay, which is your r square. So can you write this summation of mr square as a simply r, and here we can easily prove that, okay, the resultant moment of inertia, okay, of a plane lamina about the axis of rotation or about an axis which is perpendicular to the plane of lamina is nothing but equal to the sum of sum of the moments of inertia of the inertia of the lamina of two axes, about two axes, and which are right angles to each other, and they are passing, intersecting at the this particular point of intersection for where the axis is passing through that. Okay, so this is the perpendicular axis theorem, which is true for every body. Okay, but here we write the generalized way of putting this particular law and just deriving this particular equation in terms of resultant moment of inertia. So I'll go forward. Okay, 10 minutes left. So there is a one theorem also, and I want to prove that also. So this is called as a This is always true. Look at when I am just defining over here for the two-dimensional body. You can write it for the three-dimensional case also, no problem. But the three-dimensional one, to prove that looks difficult. So it is easy to prove for the two-dimensional body, and you can easily understand how what is going on in defining, or writing, getting proof for this moment of. So another theorem which is come across over here is called as parallel axis theorem. Okay, so axis, which is the, we need to consider the moment of inertia of a body about an axis, but that axis is parallel to each other. So when we are defining such a parallel axis, so here the laws is something, the equations comes to be a different. Remember that the resultant moment of inertia of the whole body about an axis, which is comes to equal to moment of inertia about the parallel axis through its center of mass, plus the product of that mass of the body and the square of the distance between the two axes. Okay, so wherever these two bodies and these two parallel axes you have, okay, and what distance between these two parallel axes also plays a role. And I say the all those moment of inertia of the body which is passing through the center of mass, so all those masses of that effectively body centered at some position, that's the position of the center of mass we called it as. So we need to define here the center of mass, that moment of inertia about the center of mass, and the moment of inertia of that particular body. Okay, I mean to say in terms of center of mass and the mass of the body and the square of the distance between the two parallel axes. That's another factor which come across over here. So here, how can we prove that? So just consider there is a center of mass C that we defining over here, and this particular C is where all the masses of this particular lamina is supposed to be a concentrated. Okay, that we called as a C here, and this effectively capital M we called as a total body of mass M. But this I say all those bodies M are to be distributed with the smaller masses, smaller particle masses, and M1, M2, and so on. Okay, so we need to consider some small particle mass over there of certain body. So here, just we have to prove this parallel axis theorem. So we need to consider a particle of certain position. We called it as a P of small mass M over here, and which is held at a distance small x from the O over here. So O here defining, you just follow the screen on your. So O is position over here, and x is the distance. Okay, from the distance at the mass which is located at a distance x from the center, from the point O over here we're defining the position O. So you can say that what is the R? R can say that it is a distance of those center of masses. I say all those masses to be centered at some position, and that center of mass is at the position R from some point. Okay, from where that we define, resultant moment of inertia. So how can you write down the moment of inertia of a certain body at a certain position? So moment of inertia, you just simply do the product of the mass and the square of the distance. So suppose you have a body at the point P, and which is held at a distance x from the position O, then moment of inertia of such a body you can simply write down as a what? Summation of all such a m, okay, you have, and the distance square, summation of mx square. So over here, the OP distance, which is at the distance that we are writing as a OP square, that is a x square. That's what we are writing over there. So AI as a summation of mx m small x square. Okay. Now, what is the thing we need to do? Here is a new concept. Remember, not a new, but we need to understand is a parallel axis theorem. So, which are the two axes which are parallel to each other? So, there are the axes of the bodies, okay, which are parallel to each other, and these are the axes which are passing through that body of rotation, which are parallel to each other. Then the resultant moment of inertia, the equation is not just simply summation. Here, the center of mass plays a significant role over here. So what we need to do, there is a point P from which if you draw a perpendicular and extend this axis of OC to a certain point Q, okay, and the perpendicular distance you will get it. So you can generate, PQ as a perpendicular and OC as an extended portion to join the whole PC over there. Okay, this is the PC. We join with the dash line. You can see this dash line. This is your PC. Okay, that's the point. That mass is just connecting to the center of mass. But what is a simple geometry? When we have simply geometry is like that. When you have a simply perpendicular, so you just use the law of cosine over here, been used over here. A square, that means OP square if you want to write down. Okay, so the OP square is what? So it is like CP, you have a CP square plus OC square and twice of the value of the OC and CQ over there. So which triangle here we need to consider? Just be careful. Here we are consider the triangle is yeah, this triangle is, we need to consider the OPQ complete. Okay, and so look at what we are doing over here. When we are doing this OP square determination, so we generally do a square of this thing, x square. Are you getting? OP square, okay, and that should be as CP square, and there is a CP, this one, CP square plus OC square into twice of what? OC into CQ over there. Okay, so this is by the geometrical relations we are writing over here this equation. And you can ask me now how the equations will be again simplified. So if you multiply by the m on the both sides, okay, so m OP square is equal to m into CP square, m OC square, and this is a OCCQ, okay, which is OCCQ is a, this is in the straight line, okay, so that this is a 0, cosine of angle is a 1, that's what it's a twice OCQ written. So this is cosine law we use over here, so don't worry what which law been over here is used, okay. So twice m OCCQ, these are the what, they are in the one straight line, so their angle is completely there is no angle 0, they are in the same plane. Okay, so that value becomes a 1 over there. Okay, and mx square, that you OP square you put it over here as a x, CP square you write as a CP as a, but OC is a your r over there, that is mr square, and you simply write down OC as a r, okay, OC as a r, OP as a x, okay, and m, small m into CP square, that becomes your IC. What do you mean by IC over there? That is a moment of inertia at the center of mass. That's I consider at this position C over there. Okay. So the summation of mx square, summation of mx square is nothing but a moment of inertia of the body about the O position. That is the I that we define, capital I. MCP square means small m into CP square. That is nothing but what? The moment of inertia of a body at the center of mass. That is I C over there. And what is MR square? That M small r square is the product of the mass, summation of all those mass, summation of MR square, that becomes M, and R is the distance at the position O where this parallel axis of rotation pass through that. Okay, so this parallel axis of rotation which passes through the O, that is the distance we need to consider. Okay, and that is the distance is the word R over there.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
I guess sir has gone offline.
सर आपका network चला गया.
अरे सर का नेटवर्क भी गया एंड टाइम भी हो गया दूसरे क्लास का ब्रो.
ले दे के win-win for
सर
us.
लेफ्ट हो गया लगता
Okay, what the resultant answer? The resultant answer
Hello.
the resultant answer coming to be a 0. Okay, so remember here when we are taking the summation of the individual masses and summation of the individual masses as a summation with the what, with the distance, that is the CQ distances, but that distances come across as a 0 because all the masses are at the what, the common point, that is at the center of mass. So when we are doing the algebraic sum of the moments of weights of the individual particles about the center of mass, it must be a 0. So product of these masses with the distances should be 0. Okay, so that's the